All right. So we know that in Cypress, when we do um, our end-to-end testing, we want to identify our elements using the data CY setting. Uh, it is considered good practice. It is documented by the people of Cyprus as the best way to access those elements. I'm not going to go into that discussion whether it's good or bad, but we know that this is a good practice. What I have here is um, a very small application. It's something that I'm doing together with the students, and I was just thinking about this 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 thing regarding um, regarding that setting. And in this particular one, I'm not using data CY, but rather data test ID, because I will be using Jest for testing components later on. And in Jest, the default setting is data test ID for IDs if you want to find elements. So I can use this in Cypress as well. I don't have to use data CY. Anyway, what what this does for me is, in order to so basically in order to find this element, in this case it's a header that I have in app.jsx. I just had to add this thing to my H1. The problem that I want to fix is, can I get rid of this in production when I render my application? I want to avoid that overhead, having this uh, data set value test ID set when we move to production. It's not being used for anything. It's just clutter the output HTML. So I found a way to do just that. And in order to get that uh, that in place, I needed to add a few dependencies and also do an override. So there is this package that is called Babel plugin React remove properties that will be in charge of removing that data CY or data test ID. But in order uh, to do that um, in production, we need to override a little bit of the Create React App default settings, and for that we need two other dependencies. One that is called Customize CRA, and another one that is called React App Rewired. And the Customize CRA allows us to override uh, Create React App settings, and React App Rewired allows us to start those. Actually, they both do the same, but in a different way. The Customize CRA does it slightly. It's slightly easier, and then the Create React, or it creates a few helper methods for us, and the and the React App Rewired allows us to start the application differently with the rewired setting. So, in order to use that, I would have to uh, I will have to do the following. First, I need to check out the documentation about the Babel plugin React remove properties, and that calls for creating a Babel RC. Uh, so this is supposed to be like this production. Uh, Babel RC, which is a configuration file, and I will just point Bubble to plugins. I want to use this React remove properties. And then what properties do I want to remove? Well, I want to remove data test ID. And in this setting, I also added that it should remove data CY. Now, in order to have this Bubble RC used by my Create React app, I need to create an config override, which overrides the default settings and I have to import, override, and use bubble RC. And there's an extensive API. So there are many helper methods that we can use for that. But in this case, I only want to use this helper called use bubble RC. And I need to say that we want to use that in this override export. Now I'm getting a warning here, so I will just silent this by saying that I want to disable these rule of hooks in the entire file, just to silence that particular warning. Okay, so now my Create React app will know that it should use the customized bubble RC. And the last step would be in my package JSON to go in and change my scripts from using React scripts to use React app rewired instead. And in this setting, let me just run my Cypress test. My Cypress test is actually looking for that test ID. Let's see if we can get that up and running. Like this. Takes a while. We should be up and running soon. So in this first instance, this will actually work. The test will pass because my bubble RC is set to use this this setting only in production. And when we run our Cypress tests, we are not in production. We are in development mode. So at this stage, this test will pass. Hopefully, let's see. Right, now it's passing. And now I will stop Cypress. I will change this setting from production to development. And I will start Cypress again. And we will see that this setting or this property has been removed for us. And we have cleaner HTML output in our app. I will show you that in just a second. Let's see if Cypress comes up or not. Let's see. It's a bit slow as usual, but that's life, I guess. So we're going to run the same spec. And now this test will fail for me, as you can clearly see. And by inspecting this this particular element, we have to do it twice. We can see that this H1 does not contain this data test ID setting anymore. It has been successfully removed. So I think that's a good thing to implement for applications that are past development. When we push them up in production, we want to remove all of that overhead, and in a way it fixes that problem that we probably discussed at some other point, that the implementation code that you write in a test-driven way should not reflect the fact that you have been testing your code. It should be clean from any traces of that. And by remove these data CY or data test ID or whatever you're using, you are getting a cleaner code output. And I think that's a good thing. Together with other best practices, you can get a nice output for your apps, and that fixes that particular problem. So that was all I had for you at this point. Cheerio.